now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Historical Women in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series, I am going to be talking about reporter Christine Chubbuck, who took her life on the air in 1974. All images used in this video are under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and are in conjunction with my commentary. Now, Christine Chubbuck was the first person to ever commit suicide on American broadcast television. And Christine Chubbuck's story really reminds me a lot of the stories of the incels I have read about as part of my research on my book, The Man Crisis. Now, Christine Chubbuck was born to two parents back in 1944, and she grew up with two brothers, Greg and Tim. And Christine Chubbuck attended the Laurel School for Girls in Shaker Heights, a prominent suburb in Cleveland. Now, during Christine Chubbuck's adolescence, she had social anxiety and extreme low self-esteem, and it's this social anxiety and low self-esteem that laid the foundation for her becoming the woman in crisis who took her life in 1974 at 29 years old. Now, because Christine Chubbuck could not see her own beauty as a woman, she wound up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, and she wound up on that road to becoming a woman in crisis as she made self-deprecating jokes, making fun of herself, and going out here and forming a dateless wonder club with other rejected girls who did not have dates on Saturday nights. Now, what's really sad here is that Christine Chubbuck was a very attractive woman. Unfortunately, because she was an introvert who struggled with social anxiety, she could not see her own beauty, and she did not have the confidence to go out there and try to put herself on the social marketplace to go out here and try to get the attention of men. And because she didn't have that confidence to go out here and be a part of the social marketplace, what happened with Christine Chubbuck is she decided to become one of these dateless wonders and decided to dedicate her weekends to knitting instead of going out here and enduring the emotional pain as related to going out and trying to meet other people. Now, what I believe happened with Christine Chubbuck is that she possibly was one of these introverts who had such social anxiety that when she went into social situations, she was so intimidated by all of the other attractive women that what happened was she just withdrew from the situation, fearing that she would not be able to get the attention of other women and feared having to compete with those other women. This is something many introverts struggle with, and I have struggled with myself as related to going out in the business marketplace with my own publications. I remember there was a time when I struggled with going into places like a Harlem Book Fair, feeling intimidated by other creators, but eventually I managed to get over that whole fear and the anxiety related to it and say to myself that the work that I do is just as good as anybody else's and I deserve to be there. Unfortunately, with Christine Chubbuck, she never overcame that anxiety because the only way to overcome that anxiety is by going out into social places and dealing with that fear by facing that fear. That is the only way to overcome that fear as related to social situations. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Christine Chubbuck's parents were able to go out here and connect with their daughter to let her understand that the only way to deal with this kind of anxiety is you just have to go out here into the social world, and you have to take whatever lumps you have to take. And again, that's all about building your discipline and resolve. And this is something Christine Chubbuck, even though she went to a private school, I believe, she never built up these life skills, because children have to learn how to build up these life skills, both male and female. And Christine Chubbuck didn't do this. And again, it really affected her self-esteem, and it affected her self-confidence, because yes, you're going to have people saying no to you when they're not interested, but you still have to persevere. And Christine Chubbuck wasn't able to build up that thick skin, and that's one of the things that led to her becoming on the road to becoming a woman in crisis. Now, Christine Chubbuck, as she was a part of the Dateless Wonder Club that she created, she wanted to find a covert way to find her voice, because one of the things that introverts try to do is we try to find our voices in going to different hobbies or different things. And what Christine Chubbuck went to do was she went to the Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, to major in theater arts. And as she went there to major in theater arts, I believe what she was trying to do was go out here and find her voice. And as she was looking to find her voice, she was looking to find a way to speak to people. Unfortunately, as she was trying to speak to people, she never really found that confidence. Now, a lot of people, they go into acting, they're really introverts, and this is a way for them to be the person that they want to be. They do it covertly through the characters and the performances they have. And I believe that's what Christine Chubbuck was looking to do. But then she found an interest in broadcasting, and she decided to go into broadcasting at Boston University. And as she went to Boston University, she then got her bachelor's degree in 1965. Now, as she was going to Boston University in 1965, she then began dating a man in his 30s when she was 21. And I believe that she was dating that man because she was looking for a father figure to nurture her. She was looking for a safe space to be who she wanted to be. Unfortunately, when she was looking to go out here and marry this man, her father didn't approve of the relationship, and I believe that is the thing that basically shattered Christine Chubbuck's self-confidence. I believe what happened with Christine Chubbuck was she was trying to find her voice, she was trying to build her confidence, and she found a man who she thought would be somebody she could rely on and lean on for her emotional security. And she was looking for somebody to, again, meet her emotional needs and give her a place that she could feel safe in. Unfortunately, her entire life basically started to fall apart. And I believe the road to her going on the woman in crisis road, where her life started to deteriorate, really started when her father went out here and rejected the man she wanted to get involved with. And I believe that further devastated Christine and led to her mental health issues further exacerbating, because the big problem with Christine Chubbuck was she was an introvert who struggled with social anxiety, and with introverts who struggle with social anxiety, what can happen is that if you have one setback, it can just be devastating, because when you're an introvert, you invest a lot of your feelings into things, and you want things to work out, and you're afraid that if it doesn't work out, things are going to go bad. And this is the thing that I believe basically crushed Christine Chubbuck and led to her basically having her whole mind deteriorate as related to things, because her issues with men, I believe, was a core reason for her committing suicide in 1974, since she felt like she was invisible to people. This was her way to get attention and let people know something was wrong. And that's what I believe happened here. What happened is Christine just felt like she was worthless. And again, this whole thing, I believe, laid at the foundation for it was the rejection of the man by her father. Now, Christine Chubbuck went on after this, when she was 21, she worked for WVIZ in Cleveland for 1966 and 1977, and attended a workshop for radio and television in 1967. She then worked for 3 months at WQED in Pittsburgh, and then went on to become a producer for 2 local shows, Women's World and Keys to the City, and then left WQED to do some to work for 2 years as a computer operator. And then after this, she decided to work for an ABC affiliate, WXLT-TV, then worked in the traffic department in St. Petersburg. And after this, she then moved over to Sarasota, Florida. And as she moved to Sarasota, Florida, she was hired to be a reporter, but the producer decided to give her own community affairs talk show, Suncoast Digest. And producers only do this because they really believe in someone. And I believe that her producer and owner, Bob Nelson, really believed in Christine Chubbuck and saw beauty and greatness in her. Unfortunately, Christine Chubbuck could not see her own beauty. She could not see her own talent, because producers don't give people shows unless they believe in them and believe that they have a lot of potential. And she was given her own show, and as she was given her own show, she did a lot of hard journalism, showing that she had a lot of skill as related to discussing issues in the news of Sarasota, Florida, and again, showing her skills, but she couldn't see her own talent and couldn't see anything about herself as related to her own self-worth. And that was the big problem with Christine Chubbuck, as her anxiety eventually turned into depression, and that depression eventually turned into suicidal tendencies. Now, what further exacerbated things for Christine Chubbuck was she struggled as related to trying to find ways to have relationships with men, because she wanted to have a great personal life. And the big problem I saw with Christine Chubbuck was while she wanted to have a personal life, she didn't understand that you have to put work into it. Again, when I listen to her story, it really reminds me a lot of the incels out here. A lot of the male incels have the same mindset. They want to have the great personal life, but what they don't understand is you have to go out here and put the work into that life. You have to have the self-confidence to go out here into the world, and you have to go out here and build up that thick skin and take those hits. But Christine Chubbuck, basically, as she had a high-powered career and an education, she just didn't want to go out here and put the work into things. And she wanted to try to, again, use passive manners like she did when she majored in theater arts and broadcasting to try to find her voice. And yes, that'll help you in your career, but it's not going to help you in your personal life. No, you're going to have to go out here and face your fears, and you're going to have to go out here and face them. But Christine Chubbuck didn't do this. She had a crush on a coworker, George Peter Ryan, who was working at the station, and she knew that this man already was involved with a sports reporter, Andrea Kirby, and while Kirby had been her friend on the job, but the whole thing was she had been offered she was pining for her boyfriend. And again, she was pining for the boyfriend because he was easiest to get close to. And again, that's what introverts do, because they don't have the confidence to go out here and get their own man. So when I listen to Christine Chubbuck's story, it reminds me a lot of what Daria Morgendorffer did with Jane's boyfriend, Tom. And if you ever watched Daria season 4, the later parts of it, Daria starts making moves on Tom, and she makes moves on Tom because she's scared to go out into the world, go get her own man. Now she knows that Tom and Jane are having problems, but because she's scared of losing her friend, because her friend is getting closer to a man, what she does is go out here and get involved with her best friend's man. And again, that's what introverts in some cases do, because they're scared. And when I look at Christine Chubbuck, she was one of these introverts who was just scared, and again, she was trying to find covert ways to try to get the attention of George Peter Ryan. Unfortunately, as she was looking to try to get his attention, her whole approach just came across as extremely awkward because she baked him a cake for his birthday, but that's a covert contract because while a woman does cook for a man, she usually cooks for a man who is available and can appreciate the gesture. She just doesn't cook out of nowhere for just some random dude, because the dude, if he's in a relationship with another woman, he's not really interested in what you're doing. But Christine Chubbuck, again, because she didn't understand the unwritten and written social rules, she thought, oh, this was not going to work out. She thought this was going to work out, but that was not going to work out because it's extremely passive. And when you're passive, people don't really know what you want. And if you like a guy, you've got to go out here and let him know through verbal and nonverbal cues. And unfortunately, Christine Chubbuck didn't understand what verbal and nonverbal cues were due to the fact that she was isolated and introverted. And because she was isolated and introverted, she didn't understand what the proper social approaches were, and that's why she was trying to get with a man who was already with another woman. And things actually got worse for Christine Chubbuck because their friend Andrea Kirby, who was the sports reporter, while she was close to Christine Chubbuck, she got offered another job in Baltimore. And because she got offered another job in Baltimore, this really depressed Christine Chubbuck because she lost a close friend, but she just didn't understand how life worked because she just didn't know how things worked with people in the job. People are going to come and go out of your life, and what she wanted to do was have close friends and bond with people, but she didn't understand how to socialize in the world. And again, that's why I say she really reminds me a lot of the incels of today. And she wanted to have close friends, she wanted to do things, but the whole thing is, because she was an introvert, what she would do is become extremely defensive. And again, this is something that a lot of introverts do because a lot of introverts are scared, and because they're scared of people hurting them, they'll go out here and be very brusque. Sometimes they will just appear to snap at you, or they'll give you very short answers because they're afraid of people hurting them. And the irony is that Christine Chubbuck wanted to connect with people, but as an introvert, she just was so afraid of getting hurt that she wound up working against herself because she didn't really see herself the way other people saw her. So she participated in when she was on the job, a lot of self-deprecating behavior, criticizing herself constantly, and really didn't believe any compliments people paid her. She didn't see that there were people who saw greatness in her because, again, for the station owner to give her her own show at 9 a.m., he really did believe in Christine Chubbuck. Unfortunately, Christine Chubbuck really didn't believe in herself. And because she didn't believe in herself, again, she started acting in a way that was antisocial, and she was acting in a way that was antisocial because she didn't know how to socialize. She didn't know how to be vulnerable. She was afraid to be open, and she was struggling with these issues, and it was those issues that sadly led to her looking to attempt suicide by overdosing on drugs. And she wanted to commit this suicide because she basically felt worthless, and even though she was visible on the TV news, she felt invisible as a person. And because she felt invisible as a person, she didn't feel like people were noticing her as a person. She didn't feel like she was a part of the world, even though she was broadcast every day. She really felt invisible, and because she felt invisible, she struggled with these issues of self-esteem and self-worth, and would frequently make references to her suicide attempt. Now, Christine Chubbuck had been seeing a therapist, but she didn't. But her mother chose not to tell anybody in management about Christine's issues because she was afraid that Christine Chubbuck would be fired, and this possibly would have led to her escalating her behavior in an effort as related to getting the attention of people. Unfortunately, as Christine Chubbuck was having success on her show, what was happening with Christine Chubbuck as she was working on Suncoast Digest, she was still struggling with these issues as related to low self-esteem. And as she was struggling with these issues as related to her low self-esteem, which had turned her anxiety into depression, and that depression had made her suicidal, she then had a condition where she had to have her right ovary removed in 1973, and she was told that if she did not become pregnant within 2 to 3 years, she would never be able to conceive. Now, this news basically devastated Christine Chubbuck, who was already struggling as related to issues with men, and as she was struggling with issues with men, this basically, I believe, was the thing that led to her basically going over the edge, because at this point, she basically felt, oh, I can't get the attention of men, and now I will never ever be able to go out here and have children for them. So she went from feeling worthless to feeling just absolutely at the bottom, because the main reason for women getting involved with women is to get married and go out here and have children. And because she felt like she would never be a wife or a mother, I believe this is the thing that motivated Christine to go out here and develop a plan to go out here and take her own life. I believe that her motivation was way back after she found out she was unable to conceive, because she felt very hurt about the whole idea of never being able to find a man, never being able to go out here and get married, and now not even able to go out here and provide that man with children for his seed. And Christine Chubbuck, who was a virgin at 29 years old, was basically just feeling at the lowest point, and this is where she went on, I believe, her long plan as related to taking her life. And as she was doing this, she was going, her so-called self-deprecating humor started to become darker, and this whole sick humor she was participating in, she talked about buying a gun and killing herself on the air, and that's what she told Rob Smith, and he went out here and dismissed it, thinking it was sick humor, but it was basically a cry for help from Christine Chubbuck. So this was a week before she committed suicide. She told Rob Smith she bought a gun and was going to kill herself on the air, and I believe her motive for doing this was she felt that even though she had great success, she didn't have any purpose in life. She felt that because she could not have the social life she wanted to end her life. And she wanted to end her life because she couldn't be the woman she always wanted to be. And that's the thing that basically was the thing that haunted Christine Chubbuck. She couldn't be the woman she wanted to be, that she imagined. And since she couldn't be the woman she imagined, what she wanted to do was destroy herself and end her life. She wanted to end her life because she felt like since there was no way for her to become the woman she wanted to be, she didn't feel like there was anything to live for. Because the big problem I saw with Christine Chubbuck was nobody sat there and told her that life isn't fair, life is hard, and if you want to be the person you want to be, you've got to put the work in who you are. That's something that Christine Chubbuck was never told, and people people couldn't tell her because she had built an emotional wall around herself. Because a lot of introverts, we build walls around ourselves when we get hurt by other people, and what we do is keep people out. And the whole thing is, if we keep people out, people can't come in to help us. And I believe that's what happened with Christine Chubbuck as related to her whole situation. Now, Christine Chubbuck, on the week before she took her life, hosted a party a few days before she went on the air of Suncoast Digest to take her life. And it was at that party people saw the Christine Chubbuck she always wanted to be. Unfortunately, Christine Chubbuck's fear prevented her from being the person she always wanted to be, and people saw a completely different person. But if Christine Chubbuck had somebody to give her the courage, now she was seeing therapists as related to her mental health issues, but she really needed to go out here and just really talk to people and connect with people, but she couldn't do it because, again, introverts build walls. But the whole thing was she got a chance to actually be that person for once. And for a lot of people, they said it was her going away party, and it was a way for her to just she probably felt like she had nothing to lose, because she had already planned to take her own life, I believe, right after the ovary was removed from her body. I believe that this was her last opportunity to go out here and be the person she wanted to be, and that's what she did at that party 1 week or a couple of days before she killed herself. And on the morning of 1974, Christine Chubbuck then went and told co-workers that she wanted to read a newscast for Suncoast Digest, something she hadn't done before, and that was a red flag that for everybody on at the studio that she went out here and did this. And as she was reading these news stories, she then went and made a statement as related to things planning her suicide. Now, she said, in keeping with the WXLT practice of presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts TV news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color and exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide. And that's when she took out a gun and shot herself in the head, and that's when the network decided to go to black. But that whole suicide attempt, as I see it, was a last gasp for attention. She felt like she couldn't be the person she wanted to be, and since she felt like she couldn't be the person she wanted to be, she decided to end her life. Now, when I look at Christine Chubbuck, again, it's just a sad story, and I could really relate to it because I myself am an introvert who struggles with social anxiety, and I could relate to Christine Chubbuck's story. I understood everything that she went through, and I understood what motivated her to take her life, and the things that motivated her to take her life was that she felt like she wanted to be social. She felt like she wanted to connect with people. She wanted to be the life of the party like she was on the last day of her life. But she didn't understand that life is a hard thing and that you have to develop these social skills and life skills, and you have to have the courage to continue working on those life skills. You've got to keep pushing through the pain. That's something that I learned back in 2009 when I was going to the Harlem Book Fair. I mean, I had to push past that fear, and I had to push past that fear as I was doing blogs in about 2010, 2011, and as I went on to keep pushing in spite of setbacks like several of my books, like Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, not performing like I thought. I had to keep pushing, and I had to keep pushing because I wanted to keep going out there and being the person that I wanted to be, because I always understood that if I want to be the person I want to be, I have to show who I am. And that's why I went from being a guy who put words on paper to becoming a person with a face that came on YouTube all the time. That's when I decided to go out here and go through that pain. And again, I had to go through that pain. It was a process because for many years I felt like I didn't have my own voice, and people basically took away my voice in 2002 when I lost a job as a receptionist at a law firm. That's when I was at my lowest point. I felt like I couldn't even speak at some times. And even in 2008, when I was working at the circulation desk, I had anxiety as related to my voice. But it's been a long 15 years, and I had to do the work to rediscover the voice that I had when I was 11 years old. But I finally have that voice again. And when I look at Christine Chubbuck's story, I understand everything that she went through. I understand what motivated her to take her life. And I understand what happened with her is that, again, she did not see her own worth or her own value. She was afraid to be herself. She was afraid of finding her voice and telling people who she is and having the confidence and presence to just be herself. This was something that basically made her depressed, and what made her depressed was the fact that she could not be the woman she always wanted to be. She saw a person inside her that she imagined, and she was just, again, struggling with how to go out here and be that person. And sadly, modern psychotherapy could not help her. I mean, in the 70s couldn't help her, but if she was around today, she possibly would have gotten a lot of help and possibly would have gotten that help. But sadly, because she was in the 70s and struggling with herself, this is what led to her becoming a woman in crisis. Now, as I was reading about Christine Chubbuck's story, again, it reminded me of myself, and it also reminded me of the Matilda Crowley character I wrote in my novel, Spellbound. When, as I was reading about Christine Chubbuck, I thought about the story I wrote about Matilda and how she went on a journey to finding her own voice. And the whole problem with Christine Chubbuck was she was afraid to be herself. And the only way she felt like she was being herself was on the last day of her life. But because she didn't have the courage to face her fears, the day that she had the party could have been the first day of her life. And the whole thing is she didn't know how to face her fears and be that person. That's something that Christine Chubbuck didn't understand. And again, this one really resonated with me when I listened to Christine Chubbuck, because when I look at 29-year-old Christine Chubbuck, she was a woman who, again, had great success as related to her professional life. Unfortunately, it was her struggles as related to her personal life that led to her becoming a woman in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to women like Christine Chubbuck winding up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis in spite of having it all, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashware's The iBookstore and Google Play. And if you want to see me do more videos about historical men and women in crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this installment of the Historical Women in Crisis series. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.